On this episode, I talk to you about which bankruptcy looks better on your credit report. Let's get into the show.
Joining us this morning is Edward Sanchez, president of Money Sharp.
Hey everyone, this is Edward Sanchez, a registered financial consultant, president of Money Sharp. Welcome back to the Money Sharp Show. This is episode 8. Very exciting. And we're talking about bankruptcy. Even though we're talking about bankruptcy, I have a ton of experience in this area. I've worked with tens of thousands of clients. Again, I've been doing this a very, very long time. This isn't a show where you're going to get legal advice. I'm not an attorney. I'm not going to pretend to. But I get asked a lot, which bankruptcy is better? Which bankruptcy looks better on my credit report? Which one am I going to be able to rebuild coming out of a bankruptcy? And I will tell you that your situation dictates which bankruptcy is the better fit for you. There isn't a good, there isn't a bad. As a consumer, your general options are going to come down to a Chapter 7, which is a fresh start, being able to eliminate your unsecured debt such as medical bills, credit cards, things of that nature. The alternative is a Chapter 13. It's a court-ordered repayment plan where you force your creditors into a repayment plan that runs between 3 and 5 years. Okay? If you are in a position, I'll give you a hypothetical, where you're recently out of work and so you fell behind on your mortgage, and let's say that your mortgage payment is $2,000 a month. Okay? Your mortgage payment is $2,000 a month. You're 6 months behind. Here we go. Sorry for the blip in editing. But we're talking about what you're trying to accomplish. So if your mortgage is $2,000 a month, you're 6 months behind, that's $12,000 in mortgage arrears, okay? Now you're back to work. You're making money again. And you can make your regular mortgage payment. But what you cannot do is write a check to the mortgage company for $12,000, and that's what they want. And by the way, they want it yesterday, okay? What a Chapter 13 will help you do is get back on page 1 with your mortgage company and continue to make your regular mortgage payments to them as if you hadn't fallen behind. And through that court-ordered repayment plan, you would take your mortgage arrears, that $12,000, and you would stretch that into that payment plan, be it 3 years or 5 years. So it allows you to break that big stack of debt that you have into a longer period, okay? And the mortgage company can't change their mind. They can't back out of it. They have to go back to taking your regular mortgage payment every month as if you hadn't fallen behind. And then in addition to that, from the trustee's office, when you make your payment to the court, the trustee takes that payment, they break it up 5, 6, 12 different ways to all of your creditors, and your mortgage company is going to get your regular mortgage payment from you, plus an additional piece to get you caught up in current. And at the end of your repayment plan, at the end of the way that it's structured, your mortgage company is 100% caught up on the $12,000 that you were behind, plus getting all your regular mortgage payments in between. There are other things involved in this. I mean, it's designed to stop repossessions, stop foreclosures. Again, this isn't legal advice, guys. I'm just trying to give you a big picture view of understanding that your situation could be a square peg, and the Chapter 7 could be a round hole, and you can't put a square peg in a round hole. You can't put a round... Let's try this again. So you can't put a square peg into a round hole or a round peg into a square hole. And the reality is that your present financial situation could be very different than 2 years from now or 3 years from now. So you may look like a square peg today, but you'd be a round peg a year from now or even tomorrow. And that's based on your income, your household size, your recent transactions, all of the above. Which is why it's so important that if you're going to consider a bankruptcy, that you sit down with a qualified attorney that has plenty of experience to go over all of that information in detail. Ultimately, your circumstances are going to dictate which is the better for you. Now, looking at a credit report, no one does look at a Chapter 7 in a bankruptcy in a credit report versus a 13 and says, hey, you did the better one, or you're a better person because you did a Chapter 13, the repayment plan, instead of a Chapter 7, and you didn't pay back your debts. One doesn't look better, but here's the fact of the matter regarding both. One is one is done with faster than the other. And a Chapter 7, typically from the date that you file to the day you get your discharge, can be about 90 days. 3, maybe even 4 months. A Chapter 13 is going to run 3 to 5 years, that repayment plan. And so the rebuilding of your credit and moving forward doesn't start until you complete and close your bankruptcy, until you get your discharge. So in a Chapter 7, we talk about you having, today being what it is, and then the financial drama being behind you. When you file that bankruptcy, if you file today, that goes on your credit report, and then you can start rebuilding and moving forward. If you're in a 3 to 5 year repayment plan, even though you file bankruptcy today, you're not going to be able to start the real rebuilding and showing your future creditors that you're able to manage your finances coming out of a bankruptcy very well until you're out of the bankruptcy. So if it's 3 to 5 year repayment plan, it's going to take much longer. Okay? So again, which should you file if you are going to consider it is going to be basically predetermined already by your set of circumstances, and only by sitting with somebody qualified with plenty of experience will you have a better understanding, and will you be able to make the educated decision that best suits you. Does that make sense? And so keep that in mind, okay? Because I have seen attorneys try to squeeze someone into one versus the other. It has to make sense to you, and this is about as serious as a heart attack. So only consider it when it's appropriate. And then number 2, understand that regardless of what you want, the bankruptcy itself as a financial tool has to fit what you're trying to accomplish. I will leave you with that. Thanks for coming back for another episode. Share this information. Subscribe to the channel. Share this with someone that has questions about their credit report or how to look at a bankruptcy and what they've heard. This I also want to let you know. I hear this a lot. My cousin filed for bankruptcy. They were able to keep their car and they're not paying for it. Or my neighbor said this or the other. Listen, people are going to say what they interpret, what they remember, what they believe. And you want to know for a fact, not your cousin's situation, not your neighbor's outcome, but you want to know what specifically applies to you. How does it apply to you? Because every circumstances are different. So while it is helpful to get information from people that you care about, that are near you, the best option for you always is to sit with a professional. And in the previous video, I talk about when you should consider that. So there is no such thing as a better bankruptcy for your credit report, but there is a better bankruptcy given the circumstances that you are in and what you're trying to accomplish. I'll leave you with that. My question of the day is, have you heard myths or stories or something that seriously misguided you regarding bankruptcy that you'd like us to provide clarification on? I will be here. Subscribe to the channel, share this with your friends. I want to give, as always, a special thank you to Dr. Wayne Dyer, Tony Robbins, and Gary Vaynerchuk. Gentlemen, thanks for all that you do.